Paul's been with us before. I remember you, Paul, about your Singapore questions earlier. Hawaiians do not like the Singapore housing solution. What about Monaco's reclaiming land from the sea and building housing on that? My general, yeah. So Dylan's cracking up because Dylan knows what the political. Paul, we can't put a stick in the water. We can't put a stick in the water. Hawaii is extraordinarily environmentally conscious, extraordinarily environmentally protected for lots of good reasons. Um, not all of them good reasons, but for lots of reasons. People really, really, really care about the environment here, and they don't want to mess it up at all. And one thing they would never want to, I know they would never agree to in any way, shape, or form is doing any kind of a modification of the coastline beyond what it's already been modified. Um, Paul, you missed the fun that we had maybe a decade ago, where we couldn't even add on a dock for the ferry, for the super ferry. It was called the super ferry. We had a ferry that was going to go between islands. We couldn't even add a dock in an existing shipping area for a ship to go back and forth. So if we can't do that, the heck if we're going to do. And again, everyone's typically is anti-development here as well, which is one reason why the prices are so high. So Paul, nice try. It's ain't gonna happen. It's gonna be, the prices are going up, and that's the way it goes. So, Scott,
let me comment real quick on that. Right,
Dylan,
so
please let's hear the Dylan comment here.
That may be something that you would look at on Oahu, but for the reality is on the other islands, and I can speak to the Big Island specifically. I ask people all the time. I think we've had this discussion before. What is an appropriate percentage of the land mass to build stuff on, whether it's houses or anything? And most people have never considered that question or asked themselves that question or have any context as to how much land is already developed. And the reality is, in the Big Island, less than 4% of the island is, or less than 5% of the island is zoned for any type of development. And so if you increase that by 1% and we went to 5%, 5.5%, you would have a 20% increase in the amount of land available to do something on. So you don't need to do anything crazy. I mean, you don't need super dense high rises. You don't need to reclaim land from the ocean. All you got to do is make a little bit more land that's already here. We have 95% of the island has nothing on it, and we'll never ever have anything on it because it's conservation land, or it's large Kamehameha Schools Trust land, it's federal land. But yeah, we have a problem because we have a lack of availably zoned land to do anything on.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to pose it. Then, if you say, "Oh, what percentage?" Well, people will say, "Oh, maybe 10%, 15%." You say, "Well, wait a minute. We're only at 4%."
And the same is that I'm sure the same is true of Maui and Kauai. If you look around, I mean, 95+% of those islands, and Oahu, I bet Oahu's got 30% of the island developed, maybe 25 or something. I don't know, but it's still plenty of
there's a good
land.
chance. And so if you do that, it's it's kind of funny, right? I remember, like in polling, tell me the answer you want, and I'll tell you the question to ask, right? So you'd ask it from that perspective. The other one would be, show a big piece of, here we had a controversy 30 years ago on Sandy Beach, right? And there was this big, huge piece of undeveloped land, and they were going to put some homes there. And as soon as people saw the visualization of having these homes that were somewhat near the coast, it was, everybody erupted in saying, "No way, Jose." So Dylan, the other way to ask your question would be, show this big piece of empty land and say, do you want a high rise here? And everyone's going to say no. So it all depends. Tell me the answer that you want, and I'll give you the question. Joan is reflecting the local sentiment. Thank God for that. Let's leave the ocean alone. Exactly, Joan. It's Joan's perspective is the perspective that is echoed by practically everyone who lives here, for better or